Good evening, everyone. We begin here at 6 with breaking news out of the Gorge. A wildfire on the Washington side in the Gorge now forcing level 3 go now evacuations in Klickitat County east of Bingen. The evacuation area for all levels 1, 2, and 3 have been expanded at this point further east.
This is the new evacuation map right now. Again, east of Bingen and White Salmon on the Washington side of the Gorge. State Route 14 there, closed for about 8 miles spanning. These have just mushroomed in the last few minutes. Level 3 expanding east. Hard to tell distances here. That's about 4 miles, we think, from the left to the right there in the red. Level 3 go now. Level 2 and level 1s going all the way to the community of Lyle, home to a couple hundred people. Again, on the Washington side of the river, east of Bingen and east of White Salmon. This changing really minute to minute here.
Absolutely. And let's get right to Alma McCarty, who's live on the Oregon side just across the Columbia. Alma, we should mention, as we were just talking about, SR 14, that main artery in Washington, shut down the area, what, an 8 mile or so stretch. Walk us through what you're seeing right now on the ground.
Yeah, as you said, Christine, we are on the Oregon side of the Gorge between Mosier and Hood River. I'm going to step out of the way so you can see some of what we are seeing just now. There appears to be, my photographer Dan is going to be zooming in on it, at least one structure that has burned on the other side. We believe it could be a home. We are not sure at this point, but we do believe, just based on what we were able to see in the camera, what you're able to see on screen, and the different color of smoke, that at least one structure has burned in this fire, the Burdoin fire, as the locals have been calling it here. I would say that the wind has still been moving pretty quickly in this area, which is pushing the flames, which have a border really on the I want to say the west side. It is pushing all of the smoke over to the east, which would explain those evacuation zones being expanded. On the Oregon side, traffic is moving as normal. So if you typically need to go through this area on State Route 14, you can go head over the Hood River Bridge and get on the Oregon side to make your way around. I will say this fire, which has been burning since this afternoon, it is about 250 acres in size. At last check, it could have expanded a little bit since we arrived on the ground here. But we did check in earlier this afternoon with a WSP trooper just to see how things are in that 8 mile stretch you were talking about.
Which never poses as good news, right, if we're lengthening the closure. The big problem we're having right now on 14 is that it sounds like that fire's really loosening up some rocks, and there's some rocks coming down from the cliffside there onto State Route 14. So that's going to pose as an issue.
Yeah, WashDOT does not have an expected reopening time at this point for that stretch of roadway, but you can see here there are lots of fire crews, at least from the sky, working on the flames, working on the fire, trying to contain this thing. But at this time, we just don't know their progress at this point. It is still very windy, and there are many people out here who are just watching yet another fire burn in the Gorge. Christine, David, I'm just going to go ahead and send it back to you.
Yeah, Alma, before we let you go there, because these are just incredible pictures, and feel free to keep showing us the lay of the land there across the Columbia there. Again, looking from the Oregon across the Washington side there, we can hear the wind whipping through the Gorge there. Just give me a sense, because from what we're seeing in these in your live pictures here, it looks like the flames are, you've got the western side, and then miles to the east, you've got active flames burning there. So it looks like maybe this is spotting, there are embers being carried by the winds. Is that, are you seeing multiple fires in multiple spots around this area here, stretching for miles?
I personally, David, have not seen too many fires that have been spouted. We are really on the most western edge of where the fire is, and of course we are seeing, of course, the smoke being carried, and as I mentioned earlier, that fire that is hitting the structure. So you have to assume that there are embers being carried, and then small pockets of flames popping up along the hillside here.
Yeah, really stark images there. You can see the direction of the smoke where it's blowing, and as Alma was just mentioning, at least one structure appearing to be burning at this point. We also know that there is an evacuation shelter in place at Columbia High School in White Salmon. Alma, appreciate your reporting on this. We'll continue to check in with you and, of course, relay any information to you, our viewers, as we learn it.
Live pictures there. Let's bring in Celine Stevens tracking the fire weather conditions in the gorge. Celine, you can just hear those winds whipping. They are not cooperating.
David, definitely not. That's only going to continue as we get into our evening and even into the weekend in that area. And I'm not sure how well you can see the screen here, but you can see the trees down there. This is our sky cam at the Dalles blowing right there just because of how strong those winds are. Right now in the Dalles specifically, only 20-mile-per-hour winds. But again, 84 degrees is the current temperature, and that humidity is low, sitting at 23%. And that's just sort of a perfect formula for seeing conditions like this. I want to show the smoke forecast for the next couple of hours. You can see right now the only place really seeing the heavier smoke was a little further down south in Oregon. That said, I'm sure this map is bound to change as we get throughout the evening into tomorrow. Again, right now, not showing as if we're going to be seeing that heavy smoke yet, but again, this is just broken out. I'm sure that's likely to change because again, we have these critical fire conditions. We had this red flag warning that went into effect earlier today, continuing through tonight. Right now, still set to expire this evening at 10 p.m. Again, these all could still change. This is for this whole area, the eastern Columbia River Gorge, the lower Columbia Basin in Oregon and Washington, this whole region just being impacted by this fire weather warning. And so taking a look at that humidity, as you'll see, it's low humidity. Right now, Portland's seeing 39% humidity, Vancouver 40%. Then meanwhile, in places like the Dalles, they're seeing 23% humidity, and other areas like that. Again, you have that low humidity, those higher wind speeds. That's really, we start to see that critical fire weather. And so last thing I'm going to show you guys, wind gusts, other areas getting up to around 32 miles per hour in those areas off to the east of us. Those winds continuing through the evening. We're seeing by the next hour or so, 29-mile-per-hour winds continuing in the Dalles. That continues even into early morning hours on Saturday, 20-mile-per-hour wind speeds. We get into Saturday afternoon, same story, 32-mile-per-hour wind speeds in the Dalles. That area just continuing throughout the weekend, but we'll break it down a little bit more a little bit later. Back to you guys.
All right, appreciate it, Celine. I mean, the winds obviously touch and go there. Let's head to Central Oregon, where the Cramp fire has destroyed 6 buildings, officials say, including at least 4 homes. The fire broke out Sunday, is still burning northeast of Madras, and it's grown to 94,000 acres. Evacuation orders covering at least 1,200 people and growing are in place in Wasco and Jefferson counties. More than 700 crews are on site working to protect homes and try to contain the blaze.
You can stay with KGW for all the latest developments on the Cramp fire, the newest fire burning near Bingen, and all the others. You can also stream on your schedule through our free KGW Plus app on Roku, Fire, and Apple TV.
All right, it's a very busy Friday evening. We have more breaking news now in Portland, where police have responded to a deadly shooting in a Safeway parking lot.
Our Catherine Cook is live near Northeast Sandy and 69th in the Roseway neighborhood. Catherine, what do we know so far?
Well, Christine and David, details are few at this time, but what I can tell you is police have confirmed that one man was shot and killed here in the Safeway parking lot on Northeast 70th and Sandy. They tell us when they arrived, they found the man dead inside a vehicle. But what I can tell you, what I see, is there is a body on the parking lot ground covered in a white sheet. So either there's some inconsistencies there, or at some point the body was removed from the vehicle and is now on the ground. Also, one person was taken to the hospital. We have video of that. So police tell us the person who was transported to the hospital was not injured, but was taken by ambulance for medical evaluation pending further investigation. Again, very few details right now, and some inconsistencies in what we're hearing from police and witnesses. Certainly that will be clarified later, we are sure, but witnesses tell us this may have been connected to a white van that's also in the parking lot. Its doors wide open. We're told that somebody approached the van and found someone breaking into it and opened fire. Again, that has not been confirmed by police, and we're waiting for more details, and this investigation is ongoing. Police do want to know from anyone in the community if they know anything about what happened here. So those who have additional information are asked to contact Portland Police. But in the meantime, once again here in Northeast 70th and Sandy in the Roseway neighborhood, one man was shot and killed here in the Safeway parking lot. No streets are closed, but lots going on, lots of activity here in the Safeway. If you can avoid it, it would probably be best. Back to you.
Yeah, obviously very startling for something like this to happen in the middle of the afternoon during the Friday evening rush. Catherine Cook in the Roseway neighborhood. We'll check back in with you as you get updates. Thanks.
Now to the latest on the local impact of the Trump administration's immigration policies. The Newburgh man who ran a vineyard services company in the Willamette Valley will be deported.
And that is a month or so after ICE agents first arrested him. John Adams spoke with family members today.
soon as I found out the court date, I got my stuff ready and drove back up to Tacoma.
Alondra Sotelo Garcia says the past month has been difficult for her family. Her father, Moises Sotelo, who was operating a wine services business in Newburgh, was arrested in June by ICE agents. A spokesperson for ICE says he has a criminal conviction for driving under the influence, but we couldn't find any record for it, and neither could Yamhill County. At a court date in Tacoma earlier this week, the family found out Sotelo is being deported to Mexico.
We said our final goodbye on court date, and then I said, I'll see you on the other side. He gave me a big old smile with tears in his eyes. He says, I know. And he was able to walk off with a big old smile.
Sotelo Garcia spoke with us from a San Diego airport. Her father has been transferred to Arizona from Tacoma and is scheduled to be deported to Nogales, Mexico.
Maybe an hour ago, I checked again, and his information was no longer available. So I'm assuming that they're actively moving him right now.
Sotelo Garcia plans to meet her father across the border once she receives confirmation from him that he is in Nogales. Another one of Sotelo's family members says Sotelo's wife is planning to move to Mexico to be with her husband once he finds a place to live. They tell me this process has been tough on her.
I'm sure that my mom haven't slept all night about this situation because it's not easy for her.
Sotelo has still been able to communicate at times with the manager of his vineyard service, still providing guidance while in custody.
But he can still help us. Even though he's not physically here, he can still guide us and help us over the phone and through FaceTime and all of that kind of stuff.
Sotelo Garcia tells me her father has kept a positive attitude despite the struggles of the past month.
That is one of the most optimistic men I know in my life. He makes something positive out of something so crappy.
Such a difficult situation for that family. John Adams reporting there. Right now, Sotelo's family is anxiously awaiting word that their father has been released in Nogales, Mexico. They're worried about his safety and hoping that it all goes smoothly.
All right, in your headlines, some more breaking news just in. We've learned the victim in an attack Thursday morning at a MAX platform near the convention center has now died. Police confirming that, though they have not released the victim's name. Meanwhile, the suspect made his first court appearance charged with felony assault in what appears to be a random attack. 30-year-old Jordan Christ is accused of punching the victim in the head while he was waiting for a train. In court, the suspect pleaded not guilty and will remain in custody. No word yet if charges have been upgraded.
A Portland man will spend more than 8 years in prison after he killed a woman while cleaning his gun. Michael English pleaded guilty today, and a judge sentenced him to 100 months in prison. The shooting happened back in November at an apartment on Southeast 146th and Burnside. Police say English told them that he was in a bathroom with Angel Geib, and the gun went off when he was cleaning it in the sink.
And local public broadcasters are facing significant cuts after Congress agreed to claw back more than $1 billion in funding. The bill, which awaits the president's signature, affects large organizations like NPR and PBS, but most of that money goes to smaller local outfits like OPB and All Classical Radio.
We'll look at what we're doing. We'll have to make some cuts. I'm pretty sure some difficult choices and difficult changes. But again, the hope is that we emerge stronger in the future and that we continue to serve this great community.
Community stations that provide free music programming and information now say they'll even be more reliant on donations. All Classical Radio is losing about 10% of its annual operating budget. OPB is losing about $5 million. That is close to 9%.